Welcome to Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris, a lifestyle fitness coach and mentor. This podcast is about unmasking your greatest potential, finding your purpose, and crafting a life worth living. Health and fitness has been the gateway drug to all of my success. My continuous drive to keep learning and surround myself with other high achievers forces me to level up, which has developed my mind to something I never thought was possible. This podcast is here to share what I've learned and continue to learn with all of you. This is your sign to take back control of your health, mindset, and personal environment. Strap in as we are recharged, and always, if you find value in the show, please subscribe and share as we can all get better together. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris. Now, if you are a listener of Unmasking Greatness, you have probably been asking the question, where has Chris been? Where has he been? I have not heard a new episode in the podcast for the past 2 months, and that is what I am here to explain to you guys and share with you guys. I'm going to get a little vulnerable. I'm going to share some of the things that's been going inside of my world that has got me to where I am right now. And so I debated on if I was actually going to share this with you guys. And as I'm recording right now, I'm still debating that if I'm going to post this, share this, as it does get a little bit deep in things that's been happening in the past year specifically. And so if you hear this episode, know that I've decided to share it. And if not, then I'm going to just keep this for my personal self, as this is something I do plan on reflecting back on as my life continues and the years go on. So the big reason I want to share this too is to let you guys know that I'm human. Social media is such a funny little world because we get to post what we want to post. Some people, they just post strictly business. Some people post all the highlights that they've done in their life. And some people will post a little bit of vulnerable situations that they go through, which I think is great. But social media can also be a roller coaster of dopamine hits when you're looking at something that's funny. The next thing you're looking at something sad. And so I know people are very selective on what they decide to post. So my objective with this is to open up to you guys and tell you what's been going on. Also tell you what's to come in my life and my coaching and everything else that comes forward with it. So with that being said, let's kind of dive in. You're probably already curious because I'm sure from the outside in, most people are like, oh, Chris always works out and Chris is taking care of clients and, nothing is wrong. And yeah, that's okay. This will change and shift a little bit and maybe some of you guys can relate. So if you keep up with me, this past year, 2025 has probably, I would almost mark as one of the most difficult years of my life up until this point. A lot of big events have happened. Things have happened in my life that have really shifted my gears, shifted my belief, my faith, how I view the world, how I plan on moving forward. And so in the beginning, back in April, and this could be the beginning of what I would consider my roller coaster ride of going down. We're at the peak, and in April, my father has passed away with stage 4 lung cancer. As I posted about that, as he was sick, and I was taking him to do his treatments with my mother for the past year at Duke University. So I would drive them up there. We'd have to stay. He'd do his chemo treatments, come back, and kind of rinse and repeat for the year, trying to see if we could salvage anything. And after a year of that, in April of 2025, my father ended up passing away. And he, luckily we were all there. We were blessed to be there with him when that happened. And it was a day before my birthday. So it's April 7th. I don't think I could ever, forget that day. And so that, embarked in what is really involved in someone passing, right? It's an eye opener if you may have known people that passed, but if it wasn't someone that you have to go to the morgue and pick caskets and find a spot to bury them and, all the ins and outs that come with that, it's a lot. And it's a lot when it's all thrown at you at one time if you're not prepared for something like that. So that was something that, I did with my mother and my brother, and, I have my wife and my son that, supported through the whole process as well. So that it shook up the world a little bit for all of us. And, behind the scenes of what my father has left behind was a little, I always clone my father as organized chaos. He knew exactly what was going on and what he had and what was going, what was the next thing that he was supposed to be doing. But to everybody else, it was just a hot mess. So it was really just gathering pieces, putting things back in place. And we're still going through that. As of right now, we're still putting this thing together. And now it's February 5th when I'm recording this. So that happened. And then a couple months later, another big dramatic event happened that had to do with my family as well. That I honestly, I cannot tell you guys, I cannot disclose what that is because it's not my story to tell. I can just tell you it's something that I never in my entire life expected to have to go through and navigate with my wife and her family and my family and my son. And I know it's hard for me to give you context of what was going on because again, it's not my story to tell. And that's something, maybe down the road I can open that conversation up, but I can just tell you it has shifted everything and will always forever change the way that I view the world. And so I'll leave it at that. And that's something that we continue to go through every single day up until this point, So that happened. And then I think what really kind of broke the camel's back, if you will, that last straw, I had made a very hefty investment into a coaching company in the beginning of the year. As you guys hear me talk on the podcast, that I think it is crucial for you to have a mentor and have a coach and invest into yourself. And so, and I still do believe that. But I've also said it's a little bit of a gamble. You do your best to do your due diligence. You do your best to research and find someone that can help you exactly where you need it. And this was my third mentorship that I got into. And this, full transparency with you guys, this is what this podcast is about as well. I paid $25,000 for a 6-month program. And I knew it was risky, but, I believed. I was like, this will work. They're going to help me where I need to. And they reassured me and all the sweet sayings that you can say along with trying to make a sale. And it didn't pan out. It didn't pan out at all. I, basically lost everything. I didn't have any return in it. It actually, doing some things declined my revenue and my business. And then I had to scramble and shift things around. And it was just not something I anticipated. And it set me back. And I was like, okay, what in the world did I get myself into? And I was saying that about 2-3 months in. So after that, a couple other things had come up, had a couple other, financial obligations that I had to cover, and it just put me in a pretty deep hole. So again, everything up until this year has been great. It's been growth. We're rolling, and no complaints, of course. And then this whole thing happens. Well, this is where it gets heavy, and this is where telling this story has been, the best I can say is it's been hard every time for me to say this story. And I want to share it with you guys because I think it's pretty powerful. And this, man, I'm still having a hard time with this. I have finally found God and true faith in my life. I'm 38 years old. my whole life, I have gone to church. My mother used to take me to church. I'm Greek Orthodox, and every Sunday I would go, little kid, dress up, go to church. But I really didn't understand what they were saying because the majority of it was Greek, a lot of songs and hymns and things like that. And as a kid, you don't really want to go anyway. So I never really learned anything, if that makes sense. I never knew the stories. I didn't understand outside of the basics of like Jesus dying on the cross, understanding God, and he created earth and Adam and Eve. Like, I would say that's probably the extent that I could ever tell you. And so through my whole life, I never cared to go to church. If you ask me, did I believe in God? I would say, yeah, I believe in God. If someone came up to me to, preach to me, pray for me, I wasn't disrespectful. I'd be like, yeah. But it was just like in one ear, out the other. And so that I just, never really leaned into it heavily. And if you've heard some of my older podcasts, I went through a little rough patch in my life that I think everybody does. And, I got through it. And I always joked, even prior to this, I would say, if I ever had a guardian angel, he or she has fully retired at this point from saving my butt. And so going back to everything this year, there was a very specific day a couple months ago where I got to a very dark, low spot in my life. I remember being in my office at home, and I was working, and I got a text message, and then with a combination of everything, I physically, and when I tell you physically, I'm not exaggerating this, I physically fell out of my chair to my knees. I couldn't stand up. I felt ungodly, like nauseous. I somehow dragged myself to the bathroom. I'm home alone at this point, and I am hovering over the toilet thinking to myself, Chris, how did you get yourself in this position right now? What in the world are we going to do? I'm trying not to throw up. I feel like I'm having a panic attack. I'm flushed. And I'm just taking deep breaths, just trying to just calm myself down. And I knew my son and my wife were coming home shortly, and I crawled myself back to the office, and I laid on the floor. And at that point, I was like, well, first off, like financially, I was kind of scrambling as it is. I was like, okay, we gotta get this thing back on track. And so I'm, messaging, I'm, trying to get clients and things like that. But just the overall like overwhelm was just eating at me alive of just like getting myself into a position I never thought I was going to be in. And my son comes home, he sees me on the ground, on the floor, on my phone, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm, I gotta be dad, I gotta put on the face. And I'm like, oh, my back's hurting a little bit. I just want to lay on the floor. And so he's 7 years old. He's like, oh yeah, ha, 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 okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. And my wife knows what's going on. So I told her, I was like, listen, babe, I want you to, help me put him to bed tonight. Usually I lay down with my son, but I was like, I need to stay up. I need to do some work. I need to get my thoughts together before I go into work tomorrow. And so I wake up and I don't wake up, but they go to bed. I stay up a little bit, but my mind is like, I can't control it. It's going every which way. I can't focus. I'm like, Chris, you got to wake up at 5 a.m. Just go get some rest. So I turn everything off. I go lay down, and I actually went and lay down in my son's bed because they were in me and my wife's bed. I was like, I don't want to mess with them or wake them up. So I remember laying down and just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? I can't let them down. I'm the father, I'm the husband. I'm supposed to be the protector, the provider. And I failed. I failed everybody. And, you start to have these thoughts. These thoughts consume your mind and eat at you and just tear you apart. And I remember just laying there for the longest, and I feel like maybe I slept for maybe 2-3 hours at the most. I remember waking up and I told myself, okay, come on, let's get it together, get your stuff ready. So I get up, I get ready, and I go into, the kitchen, I get all my bags and stuff, I go to the car, and I hop in my car. So I get in my car, crank it up, and I got to drive to Greenville. So this is roughly to give context, with no traffic, 35, 40 minutes maybe at the longest. And then traffic, it could be an hour. But being up at that early in the morning, there's no traffic, so it's about 35 minutes. And the morning time, like getting in the car and making this little commute is my time I listen to podcasts. I listen to an audiobook. Like, this is my thing I've been doing for years. And it doesn't fail. It doesn't fail. I do this every single day I get in the car. And I love it. It brings me tons of ideas. I absorb information so much better. It fills my mind, all kinds of things. That is my time to do that. So I get in the car and I'm like trying to connect my Bluetooth and it won't connect. I'm like, dude, this is wild. All right. But I was like, I gotta go. So we start moving and I'm, driving down the road and I'm trying to like get my Bluetooth to connect, and I'm trying. And, keep in mind, I have a 2022 Audi RS7 that should not have no issues. Let me be very clear with that. Should not have no issues. And I never had any issues with it. And it was just the craziest thing over and over. I tried probably 7-8 times before I got to the interstate. And by the time I got there and it just wouldn't connect, I said, all right, forget it. I guess we're riding this one out and we're going to sit in silence. And so I'm driving, and as I'm getting on the interstate, like, dude, my mind is just straight knocking me back and forth, like a little punching bag in there. I'm beating myself up. I'm talking negative in my mind, like, what's wrong with you? Why did you do this? How could you do this? And it just felt like it was getting worse and worse. And so I ended up, once I got onto the main road, and I'm just cruising, right? Just cruising down the dark interstate. And I, for whatever reason, I remember I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, Laz, who is also the owner of Tropical Grill. I've become very, really tight with him, and I consider him a little bit of a mentor to me. And one of the first conversations I had with him, and we had this honest conversation on a podcast together as well, is I had asked him a question about how did he build his faith and how did he become closer to God. And he said the simplest thing to me, which was just talk to him. And I never heard anybody say that before, so nonchalant and simple. It wasn't, oh, you got to go pray Hail Marys and you need to go to church and you need to confess and anything that you can imagine. It was just so simple of you just talk to him. And it popped up in my mind at that time as I'm driving. And in my mind, I said, you know what? And I'm saying this internally in my mind, internal dialect of, God, are you trying to tell me something? Are you trying to get me to talk to you? Is this it? Keep in mind, I've never in my life ever prayed to him in such a personal way. Have I prayed that, our God who art in heaven? Yeah, I've done stuff like that, but not to where I'm taking this conversation. And so in my mind, are you trying to tell me something? Is this the moment, And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. And I remember about to pray in my mind. And for whatever reason, I said, Chris, it's not enough to think it. You have to speak it. You need to verbally speak out what you're about to say. And that I remember thinking to myself and like, okay, we're going to speak. Keep in mind, I'm in the car by myself on a dark interstate going to Greenville. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm hyping myself up in my own mind. And every time I felt like I was going to say something, I felt like I was getting choked up. I felt like there was something covering my mouth, like don't speak. And I get a little emotional when I think about this, because it's not even sad. It's such a beautiful thing, because now I reflect back on it. But I remember, what is wrong with you, Chris? Why can't you just talk? And I felt like I was like that for it felt like forever, but it's probably like 5 or 10 minutes. And I remember finally getting enough courage. And I remember just saying, "Dear God," 2 words. And I start bawling uncontrollably in the car. Open the floodgates. I could barely even get another word out. And I'm just I just couldn't speak. I'm just crying. And eventually I gather myself, and then I just started talking. And I told him, I'm like, God, I obviously messed up. I believe that I could do everything myself. I believe that I could control my destination. I believed I controlled all my success, and I now realize that I cannot. And I took the wrong path. I walked off to where I felt like I could create my own path, and I need help. I need you to bring me back. And I told him I'm letting go. I'm letting go of all control, and you take the wheel. And I'm giving myself to you. I'm opening my heart to you. I know I haven't always been like this, and I just need your guidance. And so I just asked him, I was like, just please help me get back on the path that I'm supposed to be on. That's all I really could ask. I just told him I was lost and I didn't know what to do. So I finished that. I get to the gym, I get myself together, and I'm like, okay, let's get in here. I got clients to train. I got things to do. Let's keep it moving. We can't stop. So I did that. And, of course I'm still in my head, and I'm start talking to people, and I'm like, all right, I got to get some clients, and I'm training people, but as I'm having conversations with my clients, and I have the best clients anyone could ever ask for. And, I share, little things with them, and they can help guide me a little bit. But back in 2022, I believe, I hit a milestone in my business, and everybody says, "Hey, Chris, you need to celebrate. You should get yourself something for the success that you're acquiring, and this is a memory or whatever." And so what did I do? I went out and I bought a Rolex, and not a basic one. I spent a good bit, and a healthy piece of money. And I always told myself it was an investment. I could sell it if I needed extra cash. It's better than just having cash in the safe. All the things to find a reason why I should buy something like that. And I did, and I wore it sometimes, and I always in my mind, I could sell it, but I never did. And so I got to a point where this time I was like, you know what, Chris, you do need some extra money, just sell it. And so I ended up telling one of my clients, I was like, listen, I need you to, if you know anybody, and I know you know people that look for this kind of stuff, I think I'm going to sell my watch. So he's like, I think I got somebody for you. I'm like, all right, cool. So just tell him the details. So I ended up telling him, it fell through. The guy, he didn't really, he didn't want it. He's like, I'll give you what it's worth, but I was going to take a massive hit on it. And I was like, I'll let you know. Let me see if there's any other buyers. So I let it slide. And so eventually the conversation came up with another client, and he's like, I'm not a watch person, but maybe I'm interested in it. If it's fair deal, it's a good deal, whatever. I'm like, okay, maybe we can work something out. So he, I show it to him and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, think about it. Let me know. So he eventually texts me and he's like, what do you think? I'm willing to give you this. I was like, I don't know. The negotiation thing is fun, right? And so he ends up coming back later and he's like, I got a deal for you. I'm going to tell you what it is. I don't want to answer now. I want you to think about it and come back. And keep in mind, I have a good relationship with this person. He's like, think about it. He's like, it doesn't bother me if I buy it or not. Don't make no difference to me. It's going in the safe. I was like, okay. So he gives me a fair deal for sure. I'm like, okay, maybe I could do this, right? So I gave it a couple days, and during those couple days, I end up actually signing up, three clients, all paid in full. So it gave me a good little chunk of change out the gate and really gave me a lot more breathing room, helped me get a couple things back in order. And so I start to think in my mind, I'm like, well, do I really need to sell this thing? I don't really need to sell it. I could keep it. You know what I mean? And so I remember I called my wife and I said, I got to give an answer tomorrow to my client, but what do you think about this situation? And she's like, well, what's your attachment to it? And I was like, I mean, not much. It just, I bought it when I had, had a really healthy month and this and that. And she's like, okay, so it's not, you kind of got it a little bit before your son's baptism. I didn't know if it was for that and this. And I was like, no, purely a monetary, like financial, that's it. And she's like, well, I mean, then I don't see anything wrong with that. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then I remember having another conversation with my mom I went over there the same night, and I was kind of telling her a little bit about what's been going on, opening up to her, which my mom's faith is very strong. So I think it lightened her heart to know that her son was actually leaning into Jesus and God. And so during this whole time, to kind of recap, the day that I fell to my knees was the same day. From that day forward, I opened up my Bible that has always been in my room, and I've been reading every single day, and I pray every single day. I just read a little bit every day and pray every day. I didn't even know where to start in the Bible, to be honest with you. I Googled that, and they said start in the New Testament. So that's where I started. And as I read, I felt like a lot of that was just speaking to me. It's really strange. And not only that, from that day and even prior, I would run into different people that I've never met before. This has happened, 8 times within, probably a couple, 2 or 3 months, where we'd have a random conversation and it would always roll into the same phrase. Everybody said the same thing, word for word. Chris, I don't know if you believe in God. And then they would roll into their story. It was so often, so just distinct. It was so far past being coincidental. It started to freak me out to a point where I was like, okay, this is almost like a deja vu with different people. And I was like, okay, this is getting wild for me right now. I was like, I need to start listening up and opening up my eyes, And so all this is kind of unfolding. And so I remember talking to my mom that night and telling her everything's been happening, and I'm reading and I'm praying and trying to get my life back together, all the things in between. And I remember she said something. She was like, don't sell the watch. Why would you sell the watch? That's yours. You earned that, you paid for that, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't know, Mom. I mean, it's just a watch. It's just a watch, it's just money. It's just whatever, it's nothing. And she's like, yeah, but you worked hard for it. You earned it. And I get that. And for whatever reason, when we were just having this conversation back and forth, I remember a part in the Bible that I was reading. And again, you guys that are listening, and if you guys do believe in faith in God and read the Bible, I'm not the one to quote it. So you're going to take paraphrases from me for in context. But there is a part in the Bible where I don't know the individual's name, but basically God had told him that for him to enter the kingdom, for him to be able to be accepted into the kingdom of God, he would have to give up everything. And he had all the wealth. I think it was like King Solomon. Give up all your wealth, all your things, everything. You got to give it all away, and that will be your entrance in. And there's a quote that says, "It would be easier to put a camel through the eye of a thread needle." And again, I'm paraphrasing this, and which means it's almost like impossible, right? How you put a camel through the eye of a needle thread. But anyways, that whole little story like popped up in my mind at that time, and it just hit me like a brick wall. Like, Chris, you have to sell this. You have to give it away. And I realized, and I'm not sure, and I think I did it unintentionally. I started idolizing the success. I started idolizing, money and things like that. Not in a sense of like, I don't love what I'm doing. I don't love helping people. But when I got into coaching programs and mentorships, everything's just numerical driven, hit X amount this month, X amount this month. If you hit these markers, then you get into this group. And so the standards are like shifting, and your beliefs start shifting. And when you start leaning into numbers like that, you're never satisfied. It's like a thirst you can't quench. It's almost in a sense of drinking ocean water. You'll forever be thirsty. And it just was like all like coming from every direction, Chris. Like, this is it. You got to get rid of this. You were on your knees asking and praying for help, and he gave it to you, but he didn't just give it to you. He knew in his timing that someone would buy it. But in my heart, I believe he tested me. I believe that he tested me because he said, you know what, I'm gonna get this watch. I'm gonna sell this watch for you. But before I do that, let me pull some pressure off of you. Let me get you a couple clients. Let me get you some money, and let me see where your heart's really at. And he got me. And, thankfully, I started like reading and praying, and because of that, stories and, Jesus's, sayings and things like that were just kind of like hitting me in the right time. And I was like, I got to get rid of this. He gave me this opportunity. And if I do not sell this watch because like now I'm not worried about money anymore, then it's almost like a slap in the face. I asked for help. He put a hand out and I just pushed it away. Like, this is my perspective. Understand this. So I'm not telling you, this is just my perception of it, how things planned out. And I remember the very next day, I brought it in, I gave it to him, and I was at peace with it. I was really happy, and I was like, here, this is yours. Thank you, all that kind of stuff. And since that day, I have continued. I read every day. I pray every day. I got into a Bible study online with a group to help me understand some of these stories and the things that are being said. Because if you have not gotten the Bible, it's one thing to read it. It's a whole nother world to understand it. And when someone has a full grasp of the underlying messages in the Bible, it will blow your mind. It is insane how the depths of this book can be. And, it can be very questionable at the same time, and question your faith too, because that's exactly what it is. You have to have faith in some of the things that are said. It cannot be logical. And sometimes your own thoughts are not your thoughts. And I remember that sitting in the car as I'm bawling my freaking eyes out, that those thoughts of me like beating myself up, saying I'm not good enough, saying that I'm a failure, that never came from me. That came from the opposition. That came from, the devil. And when you start to lean into that, he doesn't have to do anything. He just needs to distract you long enough away from your faith to drag you wherever he wants to. And it's just like anything else in your life. You want to get good at something. You want to get strong in the gym. What do you got to do? You have to train. And if you want to build your faith up, training means you have to read, you have to accept, you have to pray. I think all that has to go in it. Now, I'm not getting into like the, denominations and religions and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about purely my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. So I share this with you guys because my life has changed dramatically, and I am new. Some people call you like a baby Christian or whatever, but it is so enlightening for me that I'm doing this, and it's got my head in a different place. It makes me approach different situations. I do things just straight from the core of my heart that I don't talk about, and I don't feel like I need to, I think that's something that I do purely out of the goodness of my heart. So as of now, I continue to like work hard, and I fight this battle every day of understanding if everything is, he's given me the fruits of my labor and blessing me, then why work so hard, or should I work hard? Because it really doesn't matter if he's really in control and he already created a path. And, but I do know that I need to continue to work hard. I need to keep pushing, but I also need to slow down and say thank you. And so, again, having a good conversation with my friend, he says, if you think about it, Chris, if you continue to have the success and, continue to grow your company and make all the money and buy your things and this and that, at what point in time would you ever have stopped and said, thank you, and prayed and said, thank you for blessing me? I've always said I was blessed, but I never truly really was thanking, God and Jesus Christ for blessing me with the fruits, and I said, you know what? I probably never would. I never would have. I would have thought it was all me. And he goes, that's right. And he goes, I believe that he did this to bring you back to him. And this goes full circle because to everybody that's listening, if you are going through a time in your life that is unimaginably hard, a place where you almost don't even see a light anymore, understand there's a reason you just don't understand yet. And he has something in mind for you that's bigger. Where you have put a period in your life, he put a comma. Wait out the storm. Don't give up. Because if you can trust in him and put your faith in him, you're going to see your life turn around. And now my life has not completely resolved and fixed itself. All right. But what I can tell you is a lot of things have been changing in my life as well. And I continue to thank him for making me go through that. I thank him for breaking me. I'm a hard head. I'm a hustler. I'm a bustler. You know what I mean? I'm a fighter. And he had to. And he knows that. So he had to completely shatter me for me to rebuild myself in his image. And so I know this is going way off of what I would ever have told or talked about before, but I think it's important to share this with you guys because I truly believe this hardships that you guys go through, don't give up and don't think somebody's coming to, quote unquote, save you. You still have to push through, but just know that he's got your back. And I'm very careful with the things I ask for. I don't want my relationship to be to be transactional. My relationship is, Lord, keep your hand on my shoulder. Lord, keep me keep me close, keep me on the path that you have designed for me. Lead the way. And that's how I live my life right now. And I accept it, I accept it and I continue that. So I share that with you guys as things in my life are changing now. I am still obviously coaching. I'm still doing my thing, but how I approach certain things are very, very different now. And it's actually cool to see the direction that things are going. I'm excited for this year as we have CAC Performance and myself. We're leaning into a space that's pretty deep in the health and fitness space. So I'll be exciting to share these things as the weeks come on. I am working with a functional medicine practitioner to really dig in the weeds with my blood work. So I even have a better understanding of it. I'm doing a detox. I am changing things to just really, optimize my life, but also to be able to optimize our clients' life on a very high level. And so I'm excited to share a lot of these kind of tactics and these mindsets and information with many of you that may have been always struggling with things like that. So the podcast, again, I'm going to go back to doing weekly episodes of the podcast. I have some interviews lined up. We just recently launched 4 weeks ago our P3 program, which is our peak professional performance program. That program we designed specifically for business owners or high-level corporate executives. The reality is, I understand their life and I speak their language. I know what it's like to have to juggle a family. I know what it's like to run a business and have a team and manage personal agendas, having hard time sleeping, managing stress and cortisol levels, our hormones, eating. Our lifestyles aren't normal, but we accepted that. But how can we optimize that? How can we take you guys from being great to even better, right? Optimal performance. And it starts with your health and fitness, because at some point, if you are highly stressed, you can't make good decisions anymore. If you're not feeding the body and the nutrients what it's want, your mind starts to degenerate. You're not getting good sleep. Well, guess what? That's an early case of Alzheimer's coming your way. There's a lot of things that play into your gut health that affect your hormones and your mind. So again, we're going to be digging pretty heavy in that. So I'm excited with that. But again, I'm back. Chris is back. I hope this story resonated with you guys. If you are, I don't anticipate me making this a biblical channel by no means, but I want to let you guys know where I stand with that as of right now. And, whether you respect it or not, that's your provocative. I tell people, man, if you would have came to me and tried to push something like this on me a year or two ago, I'd have been like, yeah, okay, that's cool, buddy, and just kept it moving. And so I would never do that to anybody else. I think you have to be ready to accept when you're ready to accept, and see how your life unfolds. Everybody chooses. We all have free will. This is just my story, and this is just where I'm at right now in my life. And I wake up every day and I thank God every day for the things that I have, and I'm blessed. And my worst days are someone's best days every day, all day long. So I get to continue to do what I love. I continue to serve. And the people that he's been putting in my life within these last couple months has been just incredible. I mean, if you're even someone that believes in energy, what you put out in the universe is what you get back. This is that. I feel it. I feel it in my soul. I feel it in my heart, and I feel him filling my heart every single day. So again, I just want to let you guys know where I'm at in my life right now. And I'm going to debate here in the next 20, 30 minutes after this podcast if I want to share this with you guys. It's heavy, it's deep. There's things that, again, I just can't share because they get pretty personal, and it's not just affects me to talk about it, but just know whatever you're going through, stay strong. And I'll tell you this too. Last thing I'll just say, if therapy hasn't been working for you, there's somebody else that's willing to listen to you. So all you got to do is speak. That's it. Just speak. So appreciate you guys listening. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and look out for our next episode. We're going to start dropping these as of right now, the goal is every Monday. All right. Every Monday, a new episode. All right. Y'all have a good day. Stay blessed. I'm out. Peace.